Welcome back and thank you for staying with KTN Prime. Now, as I had mentioned, we are joined by Busia Senator Okiya Omtatah, a stickler for the rule of law. Good evening and thank you so much for making time, Senator.
Good evening and thank you for having me.
Anytime. So straight to it, perhaps let's begin with last week on Wednesday when we saw President William Ruto, an angry President William Ruto, give the police this shoot in the leg order. So my question, how concerned are you by this order coming from a head of a state?
First of all, I'm not concerned by the order per se, by the fact that the president was angry. One quality of a good president is that he should never be provoked. He should be able to be sober all the time. So getting angry means he got unhinged. When you are angry, you don't control what you say. So in that context, I think what should be condemned is that the president is very easy to annoy. A president should be able to ignore, should be able to choose what annoys him, and he should be able to respond, not to react. So I think he reacted to a situation, and he did not respond. Now, coming to the issue itself, he has no power to direct how the police can behave on the streets. That power he doesn't have. It's only the Inspector General and the various commanders who have that. Because when they go on an operation, they divide up the area and they put them under various commands. So, where was the president on the street? Where will the president ever be in command of an operation? He's never there. He's a civilian figurehead. He's a civilian controller of the issues. If you look at the Constitution, I think that's called 238, it's very clear that the security forces are subject to the Constitution and the law, and nothing else. They're not subject to the president. They're subject to the Constitution and the law. So while the president is within the Constitution, they'll obey him. But if he breaches the Constitution of Kenya, they've got no business obeying him. So he spoke without authority. What he said was without authority, and it means nothing, it adds up to nothing. But it has got the capacity to influence rogue officers to do bad things. And that's why it becomes now a bad thing. And having uttered those words, he should realize that his immunity does not extend to crimes against humanity.
Okay.
To urge that the security forces of the Republic should maim people. Forget about the deaths that occur when people have been shot, like Jesse Masai and the other fellow the other day in the foot. But the fact that when you shoot people in the foot, you maim them, you injure them, you maim them, that the president should consider that as a law enforcement thing. It really tells you how misinformed he is and how unqualified for the job he is.
Okay, because my next question would be, if we just take back, we go back to the Sabasaba protest. Just days before, we had seen the Interior CS, Kipchumba Murkomen, give a shoot order. And after, during the Sabasaba, we saw police officers emboldened by this order. So
yes,
perhaps
we saw it, but again, first of all, I should say that Murkomen has got no capacity to issue that order. And any police officer who enforces standing orders, who understands them, the law, would ignore him, because he has got no capacity to do that. Secondly, it has to be in writing, not off the cuff. That's what Article 135 requires in the Constitution.
Okay.
It has to be in writing. It cannot just be off the cuff. So for me, I think they spoke off the cuff, they violated the Constitution, and there have to be consequences. Somebody like Murkomen should really resign his office, because he basically doesn't know what to do in that office. Even President William Ruto, as Commander-in-Chief, should resign. He doesn't know what to do in that office, because they are not understanding that they are supposed to be the civilian force, the civilian face of law enforcement in Kenya. And the civilian face must always be civil, must always act according to the law. And beyond that, you have the question of militarization of the police. Our police are heavily militarized. Look at the uniforms they wear. They come to the city in jungle attire. When you go to the law on police dress code, They are not supposed to come to the city in jungle welfare or jungle fatigues. But not just the city, the Inspector General himself came to Parliament twice, once in the Senate, second time in the National Assembly, in jungle attire. It tells you the problem you are dealing with. Even the Inspector General of Police does not know how to dress. A simple thing like dressing. And that's why when we say that the police command should be disbanded and reconstituted afresh, we mean that the rot is so deep, these people cannot even just dress for an occasion.
Yeah.
Because in Parliament, he would have come in his official dress. In policing riots and what have you, they should come in civilian attire. The jungle attire should only be for the paramilitary, like the Jeshu, when they are doing operations, wherever they are doing it, but also not in the city. We need to be policed in a civilian manner, not in a militarized manner.
And you've said that we've called for the resignation of all these leaders and those who are heading these institutions. But then let's not forget that we're dealing with a tone-deaf government. How possible is it? Well,
the Constitution was written for people who understand and who respect the rule of law. That's why provision was given in Article 146 for a president to resign, because the country is bigger than the individual. If you see that your presence is a problem or you are unable to govern, you resign. Do the honorable thing, say, I've resigned. That resigning is one part of upholding the Constitution. Resign your command and let the consequences follow. And in our case, he would have to go with both him and the deputy, have the National Assembly Speaker take over for 60 days, we hold an election, get a new president, and the country moves on.
Senator, we're dealing with the president whose allies have been saying, whether we say one term or not, the president will have a second term.
Yes, I've been saying that, but Kenya is a republic. And the word banana in our name we refuse. Kenya is not a banana republic.
Okay.
Yes, he was elected to serve one term. Like everybody was, even me, I was elected to serve one term. Everybody's elected to serve one term, renewable. But we are saying that for the president, he's marking his undersheet. His grades are so bad, he cannot be given a second term. He's ineligible for a second term because he has violated the cardinal law. And, and the cardinal law of the land, for me, is the Constitution. And for him to say that, come rain, come sunshine, he will serve a second term, is not available to him. The voters will decide who serves in 2027 going forward as the president. It's not William Ruto or his supporters who will decide. Even if William Ruto became the IBC, even if he chose himself chair of the IBC, I can assure you he will not win that election. Because what we are doing is, we know he's planning to steal, and we are not just preparing for a normal election. We are preparing to fight the theft as we fight for votes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here we have a new IABC team that was sworn in on Friday. And I believe the Chief Justice, Martha Koome, cautioned that team and told them that they're taking office at a time of public discontent with institutions. From where you sit, what steps must the new IABC team prioritize to regain trust, public trust?
To regain trust, it will only regain if it after the 2027 elections, if it handles them democratically. But there are things it must do to reassure Kenyans that the elections are on course. Immediately begin mass registration of voters. Because for some reason, the IABC frustrated the continuous registration of voters. So they need to begin mass registration of voters immediately and not wait for the last time when they do that exercise. They need to do some intervention to cover up for the 2 years they have not been registering voters. They need to do that immediately. And from there, then they need to put in place structures that can reassure us that the vote will be free and fair and also tamper-proof. And for us, we are demanding that we need to do a digital election. We cannot afford to be using the KIMS kit, which is a complete voting kit, using it only like a mouse, and we disable all the other parts. We should have the KIMS kit fully as a voting kit, whereby we do digital elections, let people press buttons red for no, blue for green for yes, and they choose their pictures by their candidates by looking at their images, and they vote digitally, and we have the results computed in real time. But this thing of saying we're going to do paper elections is one thing we're going to fight bitterly.
Okay.
We want elections that can be accurate, simple, verifiable, and conducted in a neutral way. And neutrality can only be achieved by a machine. Those are the requirements in the Constitution, and those are what we are going to force to make sure that they happen, so that we have a proper election that cannot be stolen, that the results can be known, and if there's a dispute, we look at the servers and say, okay, if somebody put an algorithm that was multiplying results, we can see it, remove it, and get the results as they were.
What about internal cohesion? I mean, taking you back to 2022, we saw what happened. The IABC was split. There was the Cherera 4 and then the others. How do we deal with that going forward?
We will not have that this time, because last time there were two competing forces who appointed the various groups. This time I think this is Ruto's IBC. This is President Ruto reincarnating himself as the IBC, so I don't think there will be that.
What makes you say that, Senator?
Well, you look at the process through which they were picked. Some of them never applied for the jobs, and they're there.
Do you have proof?
Of course, the proof is there. The proof is, it hasn't been litigated. Yeah, but we will say that we don't care about who is put there, because principally speaking, the use of an ad hoc committee to appoint an independent commission is conceptually impossible. Something ad hoc cannot give you something independent. So the process of appointing the IBC can never give us an independent electoral body. What the public should do is to come up and make it impossible for these people to manipulate elections. Like the presidential election, we must make sure it ends at the constituency the way the Constitution requires. We don't remember bombers, we delete. We end the election there, the media calls the election, the formalities of declaration will come later, and they can be done anywhere. The Americans voted on 6th of November. On 7th of November, they knew Trump had been elected. They came to do the formality of declaring him in January. Our system is the same. The idea that you bring results from polling stations, I think 44, 55,000 of polling stations, to bombers, to begin again doing the tallying, is something that is unconstitutional, and we are not going to allow it to happen. What the Constitution says is the election for president will take place in each constituency. We want 290 certificates on the voting night, on the election day, and we want people in the media or anybody who has the capacity to have these people in all the stations to pick those results, do the computation, and call the results. Tell us there's been a win, there's been a tie, there's been no win, there will be a runoff, things like those. But to be told that you wait for 6-7 days with Tanzanian choirs singing at bombers, we don't want that. Okay. That's how elections are messed up in this country.
Okay.
For the president.
Away from IABC, I just want to go back to the issue of protests. And even before we get into the nitty-gritties, let's talk about the fact that we saw DIG Lagat today resume office. Kenyans are asking questions. Perhaps your take on this.
Well, it tells you that there's no rule of law in this country. Because, first of all, from what I gather, Lagat is supposed to have complained of being defamed on social media. The police had no business getting informed in a defamation matter. If there's a judgment that Justice Mumbi Ngugi, when she was in the High Court, delivered invalidating a criminal libel. So, at the level of Mr. Lagat, I would know that he understands the law. If he had been defamed, he was to take a lawyer, to go to get a lawyer, or himself write to whoever was defaming him and demand an apology. But to do what he did was wrong. Secondly, if he felt he must go to the police, the law is very clear. He was to go to the nearest OCS and make a report at the police station, complain at the police station. By the mere fact that he took a letterhead of the Inspector General, the Deputy Inspector General of Police, and wrote to Amin, who's his junior, that he had been deformed and was aggrieved and whatever, put in motion the kind of police conduct that resulted in the death of Ojwang. So he bears the ultimate responsibility for the death of Ojwang.
Yeah.
The buck stops with him. Number two, Ojwang made allegations that he was corrupt. And those allegations have been kept. Even the email was deleted. The so-called the offending message has never been revealed. At least I've not seen it. So if Lagat is genuine, he should have simply said, I'm not corrupt. This is me. This is what I own. I can explain my wealth. I'm not corrupt. This has been my salary. This is how I've gotten whatever I have. But by the fact that they extinguished Ojwang, what they were doing is that they were killing evidence. Instead of protecting this witness, they killed him. And who benefits from the death of Ojwang? It's Lagat. And that's why from where I sit, if you were in a serious country, Lagat should be subjected to a lifestyle audit to determine whether he's enjoying proceeds of corruption or not. How wealthy is this man? Would it be that he has been stealing from the police? And therefore he went out to kill Ojwang so as to cover up for what he wanted. Whichever way you slice it, Mr. Lagat is culpable and he has no business. He's not suitable. Even if he's not guilty, he's not suitable to be in that office by the way he behaved.
Okay. But in general, looking at the National Police Service in general, how do we promote accountability? Because if you look at what happened during Sabasaba, just today we read a story of the family of Julia Wangoi, who was killed.
You know, there's been a systematic, a well-coordinated dismantling of the police ability for accountability. In 2014, the National Police Service Act was amended under President Uhuru Kenyatta to remove the requirement for the competitive recruitment of the Inspector General, the 2 Deputy Inspector Generals, and the DCI. It was amended to remove the security of tenure. To fire these 3 individuals, it required a tribunal to be formed. Then you could establish why they should be fired. To recruit them, they had to apply and go through a competitive process of recruitment. So when you see now that they removed those requirements, and now the president appoints whoever he wants, the parliament rubber stamps, then the president can fire them at will. The way this other guy went, Kome.
Yeah.
You find that these people work at the pleasure of the president, at the call and beck of the president. So they cannot be considered to be autonomous, to be independent. And because it is the president who is calling the shots, all the other ranks fall in line. Nobody can dare to think otherwise. So to get accountability in the police until and unless we fix those amendments and remove them is a tall order. It cannot happen today. The small people will continue being punished whether they're caught on camera or something, but you see why they're not caught on camera, nothing happens. You saw the other day that the bullets being extracted from the bodies of victims are disappearing. You saw that young man who was saying, that was I think in Ongata Rongai or whatever, who was shot and is holding on to his bullet, but he's being forced to release the bullet to the police.
Yeah.
So accountability in the police is not there, and we will not get it until we fix the law, get back competitive recruitment, and restore security of tenure for these office holders.
Okay.
So that they are not at the mercy of the president. Then number 2, we ensure that everybody is accountable. Everybody is accountable. The junior officers are protected. Even promotions in the police are horrible. There's no human resource practice that you can say is predictable that this guy qualifies to be promoted. You see, just haphazard way of doing things. Ni kujuana, as they say. So I think our police, and that's why I go back that the police needs an overhaul.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the Gen Z protests. They have been largely organic and youth-led, often without traditional or political leadership. There's this shift in the protest dynamics, signifying for Kenya's perhaps political landscape. But even as you talk about it, let's not forget, just the other day, you talked about the fact that ethnicity was being weaponized. Yeah. These are protesters who are saying they are tribeless. They care for the country. They're looking at the future of Kenya. But on the other hand, we're seeing politicians point fingers.
I think what is happening is, first of all, I should say that I congratulate the young people for coming up the way they have done. And in every generation, it falls upon the shoulders of the young people to stand up and drive change, drive progress. Society only progresses by the energy of the young people. And our Gen Z have not let us down. And the history of this country is a history of where, in every generation, the young people have come out. Right from Mekatilili Wamenza up to now, people have stood, the young people have come up and demanded change. And the drive for emancipation that began with the Mekatililis, with the Harry Thukus, the Elijah Masindes, and all those people, the drive for emancipation, for me, is reaching a climax. Because the flag independence was aborted. We never got the emancipation we were seeking. The people who came in were just the colonial masters in different skin color. We have come, there was clamor for change, it was pushed, you get the Sabasaba and go to the Sabasaba, and people now pushed back and got multipartyism back. Multipartyism still became an elite engagement. The drive went on, you got the constitution. Now, the final chapter in the installment is implementation of the constitution. The swamp will only be drained through the constitution. If we implement this constitution, we get our republic back on foot, on the rails rather. So I think the Gen Z revolution, the Gen Z agitation, is not an uprising to overthrow a government, per se. It's a demand that the constitution should be implemented so that the new republic can be ushered in, complete with all the institutions in the constitution, complete with new players. It's a complete overhaul that is required. And that's what the Gen Z are demanding. Now, to try and stop that, there's an attempt to distort the fight. And that attempt to distort the fight is why you are saying when they bring in goons to muddy the marches. In fact, per se, these people want to march. They are not even demonstrating or whatever. It's a protest, yes, but it's a protest in the form of a march. Like the civil rights movement, when Martin Luther King and others organized the million-man march on Washington, the march on Washington. That's the kind of thing that these people are trying to say. That you people, you are the leaders of this country. You have failed. Listen to us. Implement the constitution. Let us move on. Instead, they are trying to distort that. One, by throwing in goons so that they muddy the demos, loot people's properties, and they look like these people are destroying the economy. Then now you can deal with them. Two, distort, divert the attention, take the struggle away from the grassroots, like the former prime minister is trying to do, get the ordinary people out of the struggle, go to a boardroom with a select few, negotiate, agree, maintain, restructure the neo-colonial state, and continue.
So from where you see dialogue is not
the
next
next there's no dialogue.
Okay.
Where I see it, the struggle must remain at the grassroots, and it will terminate in the elections. We have a constitution to be implemented. The dialogue ended with the constitution. We had all different ideas. We went to a referendum. It was resolved. That was the ceasefire document. There's no further dialogue. Let us implement the constitution the way it is. Okay. And then we move on.
So then how can the authentic voices of the Gen Z or the youth be preserved and not hijacked? Because we've seen it before.
Well, I don't think this time it is going to be hijacked. Because the pressures pushing these young people. In the past, there was room to steal here, to steal there, and maybe bribe somebody, give somebody a piece of land, do whatever. There was all those tools for compromising. And many people, we still had, the economy was very stable. Parents could provide for their kids and what have you. Right now, the young people have no future. They are staring at a blank future or a terrible future if they don't do anything. So they've realized that they are in school, they've gone to school, they've done all these things. What is happening? The ruling elite is just preoccupied with stealing and taking wealth out, coming up with odious debts that don't benefit the people. The debt comes here, the money remains abroad, and all those kind of arrangements. So the level of poverty among the youth, the young people, and the population in general cannot allow for any palliative. There's no way you can contain them by niceties. And even attempts like the dialogue that they are trying to try. Remember there was a NADCO dialogue, which came up the last time. This is another dialogue. This is another dialogue. These are just attempts to dilute, distort, delay, and destroy the struggle. And that's why we are going to reject them. Nobody's going to delay, nobody's going to dilute, nobody's going to divert, nobody's going to destroy the struggle.
Okay.
Nobody's going to go to those dialogue things of them. They are talking of 40 people from every county. Who are these? Who will elect them? The first thing they'll go to say assemblies is to be captured. What we are saying, do the right thing. President Ruto, you have the constitution, you swore to defend it, implement it the way it is.
Okay. Yeah. But, you've talked about the fact that the youth are staring at a blank future. If I'm not wrong, President William Ruto said these problems persisted way before he got into power. So why are we directing this anger towards him? Because
he came with a problem that he was going to solve them.
In 1 year, 4 million jobs?
Yeah, so whatever it is. So if he knew it was our problems were there from that time, he should have kept away. But he came and convinced people that he had the silver bullet. Okay? So he cannot wash his hands. The pilot's water is not allowed him. He must face it. So here, what the president is saying, to trying to wash his hands and blame others, is that he's not a leader. He's a fraud. He's telling people he's a con man. And I conned you and live with the consequences. You should have known better. That's what he's saying. You should have known better. These problems were there. I only played smoke and mirrors. Mkaingia box. So live with it.
Okay. So when you look at issues like corruption, what Gen Zs are pushing for, good governance, as a senator, what legislative action can we take to ensure that, number one, we deal with corruption, which has plagued this country for so many years? We ensure that the rule of law is followed. We ensure that good governance, perhaps just everything that they are asking for. How should we get to that point?
I don't think we need any more laws in Kenya.
Implementation is the problem.
Implementation, because theft by servant is covered by the penal code. The OCS will just move after these people that are stealing. So we don't need any more laws. We have enough laws in this country. You'll just distort whatever there is. And by the way, the word corruption mischaracterizes theft. It mischaracterizes theft. What we are dealing with is theft by servant. It's in the penal code. Forget the Anti-Corruption Commission and all those funny things. Let the police, the OCS, take charge. Free the police. Free the police. Depoliticize the police. Get the politicians out of police work. And I'm telling you, this thing will disappear. These fellows will be locked up and will be dealt with. But once you give this thing called anti-corruption, they go there, it's just sometimes just a catwalk. They go there with the followers, they are given 3-course meals, the introduction chambers was, it's just arrant nonsense. Let us allow the police to fix this problem. And if they don't fix, we hold them accountable. If I was the one, if I have the command will be the police. Theft by servant doesn't need any more legislation. And if you look at Article 236, Clause 5 of the Constitution, it's very clear that people to whom responsibility is assigned, be it a politician, be it a civil servant, and utilize public resources against the law, are liable, whether they are in office or not. If you go to Article 40, Clause 6, it tells you that the property rights do not extend to property that is fraudulently acquired. We don't need any more of those. Let the police move, let the police enforce that law, and they deal with these thieves. These are thieves. They are not corrupt people, they are thieves.
All right. Senator, I'm just curious. What's our public debt?
We don't have a public debt that is legitimate. We have overpaid our public debt by close to 3 trillion shillings, the legitimate one. But we still have about 11.7 trillion shillings in public debt. A debt that was basically acquired outside the law, and it never benefited anybody in this country. Now, the last time when I was doing the figures, about 6.9 trillion of that debt could be traced to the time when Uhuru Kenyatta, that's about 4.7, and about 4.6, 4.6 Uhuru Kenyatta, that's trillion, 4.6 trillion under Uhuru Kenyatta, and 2.3 trillion under William Ruto as by 30th November last year.
Okay.
I took the figure of 30th November last year because 30th November happens on my birthday and I was working on this. So by that time, that's what the debt was. But you find that in the record of the central bank, the debt is 11.7. So there is another amount of money that is only available as a debt in the records of the central bank, but you cannot trace it in the records of the National Treasury. So that's another tier of debt that we need to explain.
Okay.
But in total, when you take the 3 trillion that you have overpaid debt for, and then you go and take the 11.7, and you add the 3 trillion, we are at around 14 trillion in debt. Because both of you have paid the other debt. I'm saying we're about in 14 trillion in odious debt. Debt that has been borrowed, or debt that occurs in our books, but if you look at the law, it does not exist. It's not in the budgets, the appropriation acts. It's nowhere. It just pops up as a debt that we have to pay. And so that's the debt that we need to question ourselves. Are we going to pay this debt? And if we pay it, do those people who acquired it go scot-free or do we auction them? And what was the role of those people who are lending this money? Did they know that Kenya has a law that says you can only borrow this way? When they were lending against the law, what were they trying to achieve? So that's the debate we should deal with, and for me where I stand is that Kenyans should not pay a single coin of money that was borrowed by Uhuru Kenyatta, money that was borrowed by William Ruto, outside the law, and did not benefit them. You have seen the president going around signing loans. If you look at our law, Article 220, you must have a debt inside the budget. The budget, the time you prepare the budget goes through Parliament. The debts and the proposals for repayment must be there. This idea that the president has gone to China and signed the loans to finance what? When you have got a budget that has been balanced by Parliament and said you are going to borrow this, this, and that, where does the president come up and begin signing loans to go and do what? You come to the domestic market, they borrow a lot of money. But you go to the budget, Parliament has not approved any single coin to be borrowed from the domestic market. And if you have to borrow treasury bills, it's just like getting an overdraft in a bank. You must pay back the treasury bills within 12 months. Here, they borrow treasury bills, they come up with things like rollovers, they roll them over, they do all those manner of things, and totally outside the law. And then Parliament also messed. They came up with something called the debt ceiling. You have heard of people talking about debt ceiling. Complete nonsense. If you look at the law, the Constitution is very clear that the debt should be in the budget. Now, the debt ceiling is pegged on the GDP.
Okay.
How do you pay debts? Using taxes. You don't pay debt using your GDP. You pay debt using the taxes you can raise. And now, this thing of the debt ceiling, when you follow the history, it begins during the First World War in the US, when Congress found that it was difficult to keep on dealing with the budgets, supplementary budgets that were coming in to deal with the war. And it says we are going to allow you to spend money before we approve. So Congress ceded part of its power of the past to the executive. Unfortunately, that thing has continued in the USA, and it has resulted in a very huge debt in the US. Here in Kenya, our constitution clearly prescribes how we should borrow. The idea of that you can have a debt ceiling is totally anathema to the constitution of Kenya, that requires that your debt must be reflected in every budget and you must show how you are going to pay it. So when you come to our debt now, it's largely unsustainable. The last time we calculated it, we were paying about 82 shillings out of every 100 shillings that we collect in taxes. It's going to service debt. The last budget, we spent about 1.7 trillion servicing debt. And I think this budget is about 1.9. But 1.7 trillion in the last financial year. And if you look at it, you'll find that of the 1.7, only the 700 billion went to pay the principal. 1 trillion went to pay the interest. So we are virtually in a situation whereby we can never clear this debt. And that's why we must come down and look each other in the face, call Uhuru Kenyatta and these people, call William Ruto and these people, sit them down and ask them what happened. Where is this money? Because the money is not in the economy.
Okay. The reason why I asked you this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you look at the doctrine of separation of powers, it's key in democratic governance. In this case, in our case, do you think we uphold it?
Well, the main thing is that I've told you that we have failed to implement the Constitution. What is power? Power is in two aspects. There's power that is exerted by force and whatever. The other power is money. There's the sword as power, and there's money as power. So the main separation of power is the separation between the sword and money. Now, in our system, and I think if I may put you in the Constitution again.
Yes, please. If
you go to Article 225, Clause 1 of the Constitution, you'll find that there's a requirement that Parliament, through an act of Parliament, Parliament will set up the National Treasury through an act of Parliament. Now, it did not say by mere legislation. It is clear that they need an act of Parliament. So the National Treasury is what that holds the money that is collected by the consolidated fund. It's operated by the National Treasury, where all money goes in. Now, what has happened is that what Parliament did, in a very strange way, it went to a small section of the Public Finance Management Act, Section 11, and said that the National Treasury is comprised of the CS responsible for finance and the PS responsible for finance and the departments. Now, when they do that, who appoints the CS? Is the president. At whose pleasure does he serve? The president's pleasure. If the president chooses today to fire Mbadi, he doesn't need to ask anybody else or to transfer him. The same to Kipto, the PS. Dr. Kipto, if the President Ruto wakes up and says, I'm fed up with you, he goes. So he's somebody who was handpicked by the president. He's somebody who serves at the pleasure of the president, and that's the treasury. Therefore, the treasury is the president. So to separate power, we must create an independent treasury. We must take the money aspect of power. Power is two legs, the sword and finances. So we must leave the sword with the president and take the finances to Parliament. We must put the power of the past in Parliament so that Parliament regains its authority. Today you have seen, today you have seen MPs begging the president. Wherever the president has a public function, MPs go to beg. They want development, they want whatever. Even the other day, my governor led a delegation of fellows from Busia to go and clown in State House, fawning and falling over each other, that are looking for development. It should not be like that. If they wanted development, they should be coming to Parliament to lobby MPs to say we need ABCD. And MPs from their backyards should be going to Parliament to lobby their peers to say, put my projects in the budget. Then we give the budget to the president to execute.
Yeah.
But when the president controls the money, like Achebe would say that he has bought the knife and the cake, he doesn't need you. So now, for you to get development, you must get too close to the president. And to get close to the president, you don't walk pocketing. You get close to the president by bowing or crawling on your stomach. That's how you get close proximity to the president. Then he looks at you and says, okay, I'll give you something like that. And then the budget that Parliament makes is useless, never looked at. Because if they were to follow that budget, then the president will not be going around and say, when he's challenged, we want something here, he wakes up and say, we shall allocate this, we shall allocate that. Allocations have to be done in Parliament.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. If we get an independent treasury, governed by independent professionals, like a bank, totally locked away, then to get money from the treasury, first of all, it must be in the budget, passed by Parliament. And then the control of budget supervises it. You'll find that the imperial presidency or the all-powerful presidency will drop like a rotten fruit. The president will become a servant, not an emperor, and power will go back to Parliament, and each MP will be powerful enough. They will not even require CDF to try and snatch something. They will simply go in the budget and say, we want to see our agenda in the budget. And since it appears, they will negotiate, agree on that budget, negotiate with the president's proposals, and give it to the president to implement, supervise the budget, and hold the president accountable. Now, what is happening is I've tried to understand the CDF is that the MPs have seen that the pesa imeenda. So what do? They try to open a back door to say, let us also create mini budgets whereby we can be cutting something for ourselves and then be making sure that we implement. That's in the ideal situation, that it goes to the ground.
Yeah.
That should not be the case. The case should be that the MPs should look at Article 225, Clause 1, pass a proper bill to establish the Treasury as an independent organ, lock away public money from the president, prezo akisota, apigie Omtatah simu asema Omtatah uko na ka 50 unisaidie bwana mwezi numbaya.
Yeah.
Sio kupigia Kiptoo kusema Kiptoo hebu tuma kamilioni kutoka kwa hiyo consolidated fund.
Yeah.
And that's very important to do so that we are able to control public funds. If we don't do that, separation of powers becomes a pipe dream.
Okay. Is there anything that the Kenya Kwanza government has done that is right?
I need to consult widely to be able to get an answer to that.
Okay.
Because the Kenya Kwanza government has tended to paint scenario, to have a lot of alternative reality. You cannot know what it is exactly they are doing. And it's like the president has got what you call the reverse Midas. You know the Midas touch? That whatever you touch could become gold or whatever. So President Ruto has got a reverse Midas. Whatever he touches rots. Instead of becoming gold in Aoza, whatever he touches in Aoza. So he has got a reverse Midas. Some form of curse that he carries on himself. That you cannot see.
But let's respect the president.
I'm not disrespecting him.
Okay.
I'm saying his actions are like a reverse Midas. If I ask what is it he has done that can benefit anybody, look at even what he has done on the pay slips. People hardly have disposable income, and he's mad. He's crying around saying he's building houses. In my own county, he has gone to some disused airstrip called in Funyula. This was in the colonial times, there was an airstrip there. He's putting up, I think, 800 affordable housing units. If you look at the place, you wonder who will even live in these houses? Where's the economic base to support people here? People have got large tracts of land. With the money that we could spend buying that house, you can put up a big bungalow in your own house. Why would you live in a flat? Why would you do this? So it's like the affordable housing has just become a tool through which the president and his friends are selling building materials to taxpayers, using taxpayer money, offloading on taxpayers, getting free land, Because when they develop these lands, they use them, once they would have put affordable housing, they grab it and they grab the land. Right now in Langata, they want to do they want to introduce, I think, 15,000 units to hurry about 15,000 people in Langata. On a road reserve, where the plan of Kenya was that when we expand transport and whatever, there will be a road reserve and a rail reserve for mass transport in the future. They want to dump the affordable housing. Now, it's creating a slum scenario. Now, you wonder what is it that this is. So even affordable housing, which would be a noble thing, but because it has been touched by Ruto, it has rotten. It's now rotten. That's why I said the president has got a reverse Midas. Has a reverse Midas touch. Whatever he touches goes the wrong way. Doesn't become gold, it just goes the wrong way.
Okay.
And that's the problem we have. So I'm not able to point out a single thing that the Kenya Kwanza government has done right.
Okay. Since you're offering yourself as an alternative, just what is it about you that makes you different from the rest? Because we have seen those who've come before, in religion and other areas, just trying to shield yourself from who you really are. So
I've never invoked religion.
I'm not saying you have.
No, I'm saying you said what is different from others.
Yes.
I'm giving you the differences.
Okay.
I've never invoked religion. Personally, I'm religious, but I've never invoked religion in public life as what I'm going to do. Number two, I am an advocate for the rule of law. I strongly believe in the rule of law. I strongly believe in constitutionalism. I believe in limited power. I believe in the rights of the people. So the difference between me and them is that I am driven by conviction. They are driven by cash. They look at politics as an avenue to wealth. I look at politics as an avenue to making a name, to creating a legacy, to serving people. So I'm driven by conviction, not by cash. That's the difference between me and them. And that's why I'm convicted that to drain the swamp is the Constitution and nothing else. We have the vision. Our forefathers gave us the vision in the national anthem. If you look at the national anthem, it describes a very, very stable, prosperous, peaceful country. That's what Kenya is supposed to be. Today, when you sing the national anthem and you look at Kenya, it doesn't look like the national anthem for this country. So that's the vision. The road to the national anthem has been codified in the Constitution. And I believe that this Constitution is adequate. I don't believe, if you look at all those people who are in the fray, ask them, how many of them were behind NADCO? I opposed BBI. Sorry, I opposed NADCO because I believe the Constitution should be implemented, not amended. I believe we don't need more laws. We have enough laws. Let us implement these laws. I believe that we must separate the treasury from the executive. I'm telling you, many people are fighting to get the power that Ruto has, would like to have it intact so that they can be imperial like Ruto is imperial. They can be imperial like Uhuru is imperial. Then we simply depend on their goodwill. What differentiates me is that I want institutions. I want institutions to be developed. All the institutions in the Constitution to be given to be brought to life and given the power they need or the assets they need to perform. Take the judiciary. The judiciary fund has been just a song, it's in the Constitution. Give them what they need. And this country has got enough money. We have been told and many times that we lose about 1 trillion shillings to corruption every year, which is about 2 billion a day. Give that money to the treasury. Let them do what they want. Look at education. So I strongly believe that if we implement this Constitution, create the institution required, I'm telling you, you can elect anybody else to be a president and their impact on the economy will be minimal. Because the technocrats will be running the country, the institutions will be functioning, and the president may just be one to stabilize and give a vision and a future. But he will not be the alpha and the omega, the way things are today.
Okay.
So I want to go there and drain the political swamp. Not because I'm a messiah, but because I believe that we have got the instrument that can do that. implement the constitution on day one, institute the rule of law, and by implementing the constitution, I'm talking about simple things like separating the treasury from finance. And to me, that's a cardinal issue because money in politics, rogue money in politics, is the biggest swamp we have.
Okay.
And we mop up public money and lock it away. I'm telling you, the money I've seen politicians running around with in churches, 20 million, whatever, wearing belts of 300 million, whatever, they will not do it. Because they will only spend money that they have earned and not spend money that they have made. So there's making money and earning money. So people in Kenya today are just making money. When you go to bed a hustler, you wake up in the morning and sonko, you have made your money. Yeah. But if you are going to earn your money, you cannot do that.
Okay.
And let us also make it very clear that anybody who thinks he wants to be rich, and I was a mandazi. But if you go to the public service either as a politician or as a civil servant, know that you go there to create a legacy, not to become wealthy. You go there to serve.
Okay.
And that's the difference between me and them. Constitution, 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 conviction, not cash.
I think that's a really good place to end this conversation. Thank you, Senator. Of course, that is Senator Okiya Omtatah. He is the Senator of Busia.
From
Busia.
Yeah.
Okay. You are from Busia, but you're a Kenyan senator.
Let me explain something.
Sure.
All everybody in parliament, be it members of the National Assembly, be it senators, they are parliamentarians of the Republic of Kenya. But they come from somewhere. They were elected from somewhere.
Okay.
So I am a senator from Busia. I'm a senator of the Republic of Kenya. I come from Busia. My friend Kajwang is the senator of Homa Bay, is the senator of Busia, of Nini, is the senator of Kenya from Homa Bay. That's how it works. It doesn't work any other way. Okay. That's why, because today, the senator of Marsabit can go to Busia and ask questions about how the county is being run. The MP can ask questions about anything in the country. A member of the National Assembly can ask anything. So we are national officials. We are senators of the Republic of Kenya. We are members of the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya, but from somewhere. We are not off. But the governor is the governor of Busia, because like my governor, the Dr. Tuoma, cannot leave Busia to go to Siaya and say anything. Yeah. He's the governor of Busia. He's a village boy. He belongs to that village. The governor of Isiolo is a village boy. He belongs to that village. He's not a national leader. Okay. So those are the village boys. And that's why they belong to those counties. But up here, we belong to the nation, and we are from somewhere. Okay. That's why I'm a senator from Busia, not of Busia.
All right, so Senator Okiya Omtatah from Busia. Thank you so much for your insights and, for just coming and spending this 1 hour with us. We do appreciate it. Of course, this is, I hope, a first of many.
Yeah, we hope so.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. And that's how we wrap things up here on KTN Prime. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ashley Mazuri, our sign language interpreter. It was Marisha Witi. Good night.